Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Thank you for watching this pre-recorded presentation for social matters, which will be found on my All in Media Group's Games, Entertainment and Arts platform, and also in my All in Media Group's sports platforms, which will be found on Facebook and on YouTube. And today, I don't know if you did watch my other presentation on racism. Thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving your comments. Today, I'm going to tackle racism in sports. Now, on the last presentation, I actually spoke about racism in different areas of society, and hope you got enough information from that. And I tried to put in some solutions in there on how we're going to solve it and where it starts, and I tackle where it starts from the youth. It's because racism is not in our DNA. It's not a part of us. It is taught. It is influenced from families. It's an influence when we were in our teenage years, growing into adulthood, and I also tackled where the government stoke the fires of racism and where the media outlets do the same. But today, let's tackle racism in sports. And I, in my last presentation, I touched on the 4 players that were targeted this summer, unfortunately, in the European Championships, and that was Raheem Sterling. He was targeted at the Champions League final where he failed to win it for his team. And as we know, Saka, Sancho, and Rashford were targeted for their missed penalties in the Euros. Now, racism in football goes far beyond what happened in the Euros. What happened in the Euros was basically tip of the iceberg when we look at racism in sports. Now, I'm going to focus more on the solution on what sports and media outlets can do to basically end racism. And when I say end racism, I mean end the uprising, because right now it's getting worse by the month, by the week, by the day even. Because all you got to do is walk by certain football stadiums in London. I say certain football stadiums in London. All you got to do is listen to raw footage, fan footage at any football game, and you can hear the chants, you can hear the racist chants, you can hear the monkey noises and everything. So it's uprising because there's certain clubs that are renowned for it, and I'm not going to name and shame any clubs here. This is not an attack. This is basically a solution. But there are certain clubs where you're going to hear it. Now, and one thing I mentioned in the last video, I'll mention it again. You hear "kick it out." If you go on Sky Sports News, on Sky Sports channels, you hear "kick it out," and they use the cricket guy. I keep forgetting his name. But they use a cricketer, they use a rugby player, they use a football player as well. And the thing is, now "kick it out" is lovely, but it's only ever gonna really hit home if we see it at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, the end of the season. It's only really going to hit home when you see it on the television, but you can see it in the newspaper, you can see it on the internet. This is not what we see though. We see it for a few weeks at the start of the season, and then it disappears. Targeting certain football players. For instance, there was an incident with Liverpool. Liverpool were playing at Norwich, and apparently there was homophobic chants. Now, Liverpool have come out, and this is a great move by Liverpool. I'm not saying this because I'm a Liverpool fan and supporter. I'm saying this because this is what I saw, and a lot of people have seen this. They came straight out and they say they condemn the people that have done that, and they will look to ban them for life. Now, think of it. If a club can take responsibility for this, another example I would say is there was an incident 2 seasons ago when Tottenham were playing Chelsea, and I believe it was one of the Chelsea players was being targeted. Apparently was being targeted by a section of the Spurs fans. Now, it was what was lost in translation was this attack on colour because he's black, or was this a attack on because it's the Spurs Chelsea rivalry? Now, either way, Tottenham Hotspurs Football Club were very quick to say we condemn it, we are against it, we will investigate it. Now, what actually came out of that is it wasn't racism directed at you, it was to do with a tackle, etc., etc. But the point here I'm trying to get to is Tottenham and Liverpool in these instances jumped on it straight away, and they tried to deal with it. But here's the solution. How do we stop racism in football? How do we stop the crowd from the taunting and from targeting players of a different ethnic background? How do we stop the booing when they take the knee? Now, again, in my last presentation, I mentioned about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'll categorically say right now, I don't actually 100% back it, because I believe the message was lost in translation, and I believe this only kicked off in the UK because of what happened to George Floyd in America. Now, let's leave the American problems to the Americans, let them deal with it, because we have our own problems. And I truly believe, whether it be in society or in sports, I'm going to focus on the sports side now, but we have our own problems in sports. It's not just in football do you see racism, but football is profiled the most and you'll see it more. It's also in rugby. It's also in tennis in the UK, but it's not profiled as much, so we won't see it. But one thing I will say is we have this problem here in the UK, so here's how we can deal with it. And here's the solution. Technology is rapidly improving. You have facial recognition technology on these cameras. You have very sharp microphones that can pick up and it can single out one person in the crowd. So here's the solution. You've got a bank of people, right? So let's say you look at a stand and there's probably 20,000 people on this stand. You always have stewardess at front of them. You've got stewardess walking up and down aisles between them. All it simply is the facial recognition could focus on a section of the crowd. So you've got a stewardess, I'm in section 4D, and there's a few people over here racist chanting, and there's people who are uncomfortable, because come on, this is what happened. I've seen it myself. I've been at a live game, I've seen it. The racist chant happens, or sexual orientated chants happens, or some profanities are yelled, and there's people around them will be uncomfortable. It's very easy to tap your airwig, your earphone, and say, yes, in your section 4D, we've got 4 or 5 guys there racist chanting. How do we deal with it? Camera can focus in on them, microphone wise, get evidence of it, and can eject them from the stadium. Now, this is how you could get evidence of it happening in your stadium. This is how a football club can take ownership of the situation. Because here's what the FA and the Premier League can then do. First evidence found, first incident of racism, prejudice, or discrimination of any sort found in your stadium, you will be fined greatly. And you need to ban these fans. Second instance, you will be deducted points. Simple as that. And you will be fined again. Thirdly, you will be kicked out of said competition. I know it's a bit harsh, and I know some people say that's a bit extreme. Well, if the racists can go to the extreme to come to a football stadium where a live football game is being played, where a live rugby game is being played, where a tennis game is being played, where a cricket game is being played, if they can go to the extreme to voice their sick and very sadistic views on a particular person because of their race or their colour or their background, if you can go to that extreme, then the FA and the Premier League could go to the extreme to, first of all, ban you and fine you and penalise your club. Now, no football club wants to be deducted points. No football club is going to want to get fines of up to 20 million, 50 million. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 100,000. 100,000 is a slap on the wrist. To a football club, £100,000 is like £1. You understand me? 900,000 is £9 to them. It's nothing. But if you are taking millions from them per season for every incident of racism, they themselves will take responsibility using the technology I just explained, which is readily available. Only costs probably about 40 grand to put into your stadium. If the FA and the Premier League are going to say to them, no, we are going to punish you now. We're going to deduct points of you in a heavy fine. We're going to kick you out of said competition. That's so in England that would be the FA Cup, the League Cup, and even the Premier League. In UEFA now, that will be the Champions League, Europa League, or the Europa Conference League, or the UEFA Conference League. But here's the key thing: UEFA and the FA, FIFA, and the FA in the UK, FIFA is the world governing body, UEFA is the European governing body. If they and the Premier League here in the UK, if they take more responsibility, if they actually pressure the clubs to say, if we get three incidents of racism in the season, we'll kick you out of the competition. Trust me, the clubs will make sure that there's no racism in their stadiums. And how do they siphon it out? You've got to buy a ticket. You've got to buy season tickets. This is tied to the person. Make sure because I've seen it. They've got our ID now. You have to have ID and there's facial recognition on there, so you can easily know who the racist people are. Now, if it's the away fans, it's the away fans club. That basically same thing. I'll give you an example. Liverpool away to Arsenal at the Emirates, and apparently, there was some homophobic, or there was some sort of discrimination coming from a section of the away fans. The same technology can decipher them out. Arsenal Football Club contacts Liverpool Football Club. By the way, there's a section of your fans. We've got video footage of it. There's about just over 100 or 200 of them who are chanting racism, or they're chanting racial discrimination, or they're chanting sexual discrimination, or they're chanting some sort of discrimination. Can you find out who they are? They need to be banned for life. That footage will be handed over to the local authorities. Right? That can happen. Now, Liverpool Football Club will then be warned. Listen, we're going to fine you now, but because there's evidence of it. What have you done to stop these people from entering your own ground and other away grounds? If Liverpool deems not been doing enough, and this is any club, by the way, then, we're going to fine you and we're going to deduct points of you. It's simple, guys. It is very simple. And everyone say, it's a bit extreme. It's not extreme. If you are going to punish a football club for allowing any sort of discrimination to come from their fans, then they will not let said fans into their grounds. You understand? If they're doing it outside, it's the police job. Please get in there and do what you've got to do. But with the technology, the microphones, the cameras, you've got, at one point, remember, in one stadium, you've got, I'm not exaggerating, over 50 to 100 to 200 different cameras all over the place. BBC Sports, Sky Sports, and European outlets that film these games, they've got 20, 30 cameras in the stadium or in and around the stadium. What I'm trying to say is not hidden from view. We may watch the television, they don't go in a crowd a lot, but they can. It's not hidden, it's in our faces in every game. I've taken the liberty of walking outside football stadiums while live game is on, and I've heard, and this is not just in the Premier League, this is in the League 1 and 2 and the Championship, and it's disgusting, some of the vile language you hear, but it's allowed because the football club is not doing enough to prevent it from entering their grounds or being around their grounds. The FA and the Premier League are not doing enough in the UK to make sure it's not in and around the grounds. And certainly the media, the Sky Sports, the BBCs and the BT Sports, they're not doing enough to profile the good of the game. Right? If you profile the good of the game, if you profile what's going right in the game, we're not going to have time for the discrimination. So, let's have a recap. Players are taking a knee against discrimination. And I truly believe, again, the clubs, the FA, the Premier League need to profile what is this message. This message is against discrimination. And we will not allow people to boo it. They're booing it because they're trying to be part of a trend. They're trying to stand out. They're trying to have a message, a vile message. There's discrimination happening here, guys and gals. And the knee is a protest against it. The footballers stand together to say we're not going to put up with it. And the reason I say it's discrimination, because so far this season there's not been no reports of racial discrimination, but it is happening. The reason why it's not being profiled the way it should be is because no one wants to take responsibility for it. There's been homophobic chants. There's been targeted. Now, here's the key thing. There's been targeted racism and prejudice on targeted prejudice behind someone's ethnic background. The ethnic background being black, Irish, Scottish. So it's not just about black people. This is a discrimination against someone's ethnic background. There's a prejudice against it. Then people's racism. So there's already reports of it. It's just that the reason why it's not going to be profiled is, and I have to say, because it's not just against the blacks. But no one wants to take responsibility for it. The money now needs to come in because we're coming past a pandemic. But the long short of it is, pandemic or not, if you go against all forms of discrimination, FA, Premier League, UEFA, FIFA, if you tell these clubs and these countries, everything from the booing to the racist, homophobic, prejudiced, chants, anti-Semitic chants, if you don't do something about it, we will fine you and we will ban you from competitions. There's a solution, guys. So you see here, there's different parties dotted around the game that can actually take more control and ownership and responsibility over what's happening, and they can do something about it, and they should. And if they don't, consequences is you. Because listen, no club can afford a 20 million fine 3 or 4 times for the season. No club can afford it, regardless of how much money has been spent by these owners. No club wants to sit down at the end of a financial term and say, right, where's our losses? And the accountant comes up with, well, yeah, we had to pay the players extra because of loyalty bonuses and goal bonuses, but our biggest loss is through fines for racism and discrimination. How much did we lose this season? About 70 mil. Why? Because we got fined 4 times. And by the way, we're about to lose 150 to 200 million because we've now been kicked out of the league, or we've been kicked out of the cup, or we've been kicked out of the competition. No club can afford that. So you hit them where it hurts. Especially the bigger clubs, because the long short of it is, the bigger your club, the quicker you can deal with this. Get some cameras on these spectators. Get some microphones under their noses. Like this. You want a racist chance, do it. But we're going to kick you out with a ban you for life. We're going to hand you over to the police, and the police will deal with you. You will be named and shamed in society. Because again, it's not just racism, it's sexism. There's so much here that can be done, but they don't want to take responsibility for it. And that's the thing here. So again, I repeat, at the start of the season, there's been 3 or 4 different types of discrimination. There've only been one that's been covered, but there's 3 or 4 different forms of discrimination that's been witnessed at games. I've seen footage of it, and I've heard about it through different forums, but we only heard about one on the news. We're not hearing about all the proper stuff. Actually, no, we've heard about 2. We heard about the homophobic chant in a particular game, and the first the start of the weekend, the first weekend of the new season, and then there's been some the booing. Certain clubs are booing when players are taking a knee. Now, I have to say, it's not just black players taking a knee; it's all players taking a knee. It's a united stand against discrimination and racism. But the FA basically need to make it more clear. This is what the clubs are doing. The clubs are standing against all forms of racism. Black lives matter as well. All lives matter as well. And this is what we're going to do to stop it. We are going to make sure, if it's seen at your stadium, you will be banned from said sport. So you'll be fined. That's one. You will be, second warning, you will be deducted points and fined. Heavier than the last fine. And the last but not least, if it's a cup competition, you will be disqualified. And you will be banned from that competition next season. If it's a Premier League, you will lose points and you will be basically face relegation. We will deduct enough points of you that will basically kick you out the league. You might as well not play because you know what I mean. So that's what they should be. That can be done, because the long short of it is, there's enough technology to pick up the culprits that are continuously doing it and getting away with it, and there's a way you can stamp it out of the sport, because trust me, no club's gonna want that. I hope everyone's understood what I'm saying. Thank you for watching if you've watched. Thank you for commenting if you've commented. Again, please, feedback, opinions are really welcome, and I will be posting again hopefully next week, because I know there's a lot of people that are asking how comes I'm not posting more often, which I should be. And but yeah, I will be posting more often now. We're gonna in a new season, we're gonna cover all sorts of sports and whatnot, mainly football. I'm gonna cover wrestling as well, and I'm gonna cover darts. I want to do a darts. I want to do a darts presentation. Probably spend 45 minutes speaking about darts, and I'll walk you through the history and certain facts of it. Because to me, right now, it's not just about football. It's about all different sports that are picking up. The Olympics was amazing to watch, and I was going to do coverage on that, but there's so much to cover. But it was a successful Olympics. It was great to watch, and I encourage everybody, like I've done in the past, yes, watch football, watch darts, watch snooker, watch rugby, watch American football. That's another one I'm going to cover, because the NFL season starts very soon. Sky Sports has a dedicated channel. BBC are going to be doing their Saturday highlights and coverage of it. Great coverage of the Super Bowl, by the way. BBC was amazing to watch on the BBC platform. They had it in full HD, which is good to see. And but again, I'm gonna cover different sports when I can. Again, please comment, subscribe, and like, because the more comments and likes I get, the more you'll see me. In the means. So I hope if you disagree with me, please by all means share your opinion if you agree, and again share your opinion again. But to me, I'd love this video to get to the relevant sources. But I will keep pushing, because the long short of it is, in my last video, like I said, it all starts with us. It starts with how we in society actually conduct ourselves, and what the things we say. We're going to do a protest. What message are we actually really portraying? What are we pushing? It starts with us, and then the relevant authorities will have to take notice. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you very soon. Take care of yourselves.